It's always an opportunity, good opportunity to be able to stand in this pulpit, and I'm humbled by being able to do that. So I appreciate that, Pastor Mark, so much. And if you've got your Bibles, why don't you turn with me to the book of Proverbs, chapter 18. Proverbs, chapter 18. As Pastor Mark said, we are in our series called Seasons of Change. And so he asked if I would finish it up with talking about friendship, relationships. And so we want to talk about that tonight. So I'm going to pick this verse, just one verse, verse 24 is what we're going to springboard from. Probably a very familiar verse, one that you may have used in multiple occasions for different reasons or on different things, but no doubt you're very familiar with what this verse says. Verse 24 of Proverbs 18, if you have it, say amen. Amen. Praise the Lord. Word of God says, a man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. I want to read that one more time. A man that has friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. You can be seated tonight in the presence of the Lord. Now, I'm a topical preacher. 9 times out of 10, if I preach a message, it's going to be topical. If I teach, it's going to be exegetical or things like that. But I try to, topics are just kind of what fuels me and takes me through. And this tonight, just talking about friendship, about relationships, it was difficult for me to get this around, but because I want to be careful, I want to make sure that what I say to you is of the Word of God, of course. That's the first and foremost important thing in my heart and in my life. But the thing about the book of Proverbs, or this verse in particular, is I never really realized what it really said. And I never really took into account the reality of what was really there. And I actually would misquote this verse, and I would use this verse in a wrong way. For example, when my kids would struggle with having friends, I'd use this verse. I'd say, well, if you're going to have friends, you got to be friendly. You got to be outgoing. You got to make sure that you're going out. And I mean, think of that. Me, who's one of the most backwards and inward people, I'm terrified of people. No, maybe not. I would rather be in a room of 500 people preaching than be in a room of 10 people I don't know, trying to make conversation. I'm shy. I'm withdrawn. And so here I would try to tell my kids, well, if you're going to have friends, then you've got to be friendly. You've got to be outgoing. You've got to show yourself friendly. Now, that's true, right? If you're going to make friends, you should be friendly. If you want a good friend, then you need to be a good friend. But when you really dive into this verse, when you really look at it, and I know if you're King James only, you might shoot me, but King James kind of missed it when he translated this verse. Because in context, what it's really saying is this, is that too many friends can actually become a problem. You ever have too many friends that's been a problem in your life? You ever have too many directions that you felt that you needed to go? How many of you ever were in elementary school or junior high school or high school? You ever have all these friends that tried to steer you this way or that way, who they didn't really care about you. They didn't really care about what was good for you or what was right for you. They just wanted you to run with the pack. They wanted you to kind of go with them. Misery loves company, right? And so they wanted to take you along for the ride. And how many of you were willing to do that? I mean, I did. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to have friends. But I wasn't a cool kid. I wasn't a preppy kid. I wasn't even a sports, a jock. Even though I played football, I wasn't good at it. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And that's why I'm a Bears fan. But, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I even tried to play basketball, and no joke, my teacher came to me and said, you're a little too overweight. It's probably not good for you to play. No joke. I mean, it's not been fun to be me sometimes. So then when I actually go to him to quit, he's like, why are you quitting? I'm like, stop. Oh, stop. It's 6th grade. I mean, I'm 48 years old. Do the math. What 6th grade is. I still remember that. Some things just leave an indelible mark on your life. But too many friends can actually become a problem. I can count on one hand how many friends I have left from school that I talk to on a regular basis. And she's sitting right over there. Because they've all gone their way. They've all gotten their lives. And for the majority, we're on separate paths. And so how can two walk together except they be agreed? So too many friends can mean that I have to keep up with appearances. Showing yourself hospitable to all can become exhausting and even impossible. At some point, you will lose friends or you will compromise your principles. You see, because if I've got to juggle all of these people to have all of these friends, at some point, I'm going to have a difference with them. At some point, I'm going to have a difference with this group and be a difference with this group and be a difference with this group. And what do I need to do? And how am I going to keep all of my friends? How am I going to keep all of my friends happy? How are all of my friends going to be walking in the same direction that I'm walking? We've all got Facebook, or most of us have Facebook. You can actually go on Facebook and see how many friends that you have. I just checked before I came in. I have 479 friends. And some are probably laughing because that's not very much on Facebook. But I can tell you this, that I don't have 479 friends. In fact, Facebook does a thing where they have an algorithm where you really are only going to see those that you interact with, maybe about 25 of them on there. There are friends on there that post that I don't see their posts because I don't really ever interact with them, so I don't see those. But I see those that I interact with. Now, don't come to me and say, hey, I can tell you how to fix that, because I don't care. I actually got rid of all my social media other than Facebook, and I keep Facebook for two reasons. One, we use it for the church, and two, my family, we have a family messenger group, and so we'll send, I have grandkids, so we send grandkid pictures through there. But I've never been happier than when I learned how to get rid of social media. Why? Because too many friends can actually become a problem. Here's what it says in the English Standard Version, and you can check out multiple versions, and it says something similar. It says, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Now, I like that wording because it says it may. Like, it's not always a guarantee. You can have multiple friends. I'm not saying that you don't have friends and that you can't have friends, but I'm saying you need to be careful of the friends that you do have. You need to be careful of the people that you're letting into your inner circle. You need to be careful of the people that you're allowing to speak into your life, that you're allowing to call you out to do things that God didn't plan for you to do, that God didn't purpose for you to do. Do you know it's easier to be pulled into the pit than it is to pull someone out of a pit? Why? Because our nature is bent towards sin. Our nature is bent towards the wrong things. The Bible even says that when you're pulling the person out of the fire, be careful that it doesn't get on you. You see, because by nature, we're going to go the wrong direction. By nature, we're going to do the wrong thing. How many of you ever eat your vegetables just because you know they're good for you? It's not because you like them. Right? We like to eat things we like. We like to do things that we like. We like to do things and have things that make us feel good. But not everything that we do and not everything that God has for us always makes us feel good. And so our nature, because of being bent to go the wrong direction, we have to be careful with the people that we allow to speak into our lives. The Bible actually says that evil communications corrupts good manners. Now, I know that's King James, and the reason I'm using that because that's what my memory is. But what it literally means is that when you have bad influences in your life, it will influence you to do the wrong thing. Not always. I'm not saying that we're weak and we can't do anything. We got Christ within us. Greater is he that's within me than he that's within the world. I understand that, but we still have to be careful. Wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. We've got to be careful of the people that we're letting into our life. But tonight, I just felt like the Lord steered me from that purpose, but really to talk about more, not the relationships that we need to cut, or the relationships that we need to avoid, or even the relationships, plural, that we need to foster through but though all of those could apply, but I want to focus tonight on the relationship that we need to foster. I want us to focus tonight on the relationship that we need to cultivate, that we need to make sure to the best of our ability that we're putting everything that we are into that one relationship basket. And of course, that's our relationship with Jesus Christ. That's our relationship with the one who sticks closer than a brother. And that's what Solomon said. And what that literally means is that there is a friend in God that becomes the closest and most reliable friend, even closer than your closest family relationship. There is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. You know, my wife and I have been married long enough that we do that thing that makes so many other couples sick to their stomach who haven't been married long enough, where we finish each other's sentences, where we'll say the same things a lot of time at the same time. We've been together for so long. We do things together so much. We're always together. And I believe that the Lord wants that kind of relationship with us, that we're together so often, that we're together so much that I can't help but what I say, it sounds like Jesus. I can't help but the way that I act, it looks like Jesus. Now, am I there yet? How many of you could say yes or no? You all know that I'm not there yet, and neither are you. We've not made it to that point, but that's the goal. The goal is to look like Christ. The goal is to act like Christ. The goal is to talk like Christ. I told you this story before, but there's a young boy who walked up, and this man, he was melting in the melting pot, and he was melting down the gold. And every so often, he would take a skimmer, and he would skim the scum out to the top, you know, the impurities that was in that gold, and he would skim it again, and he would skim it again. And as this boy washed, he said, "How do you know when it's in its purest form?" And he said, "When I can see my reflection in it." How do we know when we've arrived? How do we know when we're in the purest form that Jesus wants us to be in? Hopefully it's when he can see his perfect reflection in who we are. I know we're never going to arrive. I know we're always striving. But Jesus is that friend. He's that closest relationship that'll take us where we need to go. Somebody wrote this. They said, "A brother can cry with you, but Jesus can wipe away all of your tears. A brother can pray with you, but Jesus can answer your prayer." He said, "A brother can share your storm, but Jesus, he can calm your storm. A brother can die for you. Jesus rose for you. A brother can be your lawyer, but Jesus, he can set you free. A brother can carry your body to a dark grave, but Jesus can carry your soul to a bright glory. A brother can stand by you, but Jesus, he can stand for you." You see, what a friend that we have in Jesus. What a friend that we have in the Lord. Well, what kind of friend is Jesus like? Well, of course, it's innumerable. We would never be able to finish. But I picked 3 things that I really wanted to point out to you tonight that Jesus is as a friend. And the first one is this, is that Jesus is a comforting friend. He's a comforting friend. Now remember, we're talking about seasons of change. We're talking about how life is always seemingly changing, right? Can you believe we're already in June of 2021? It is incredible how fast things are moving. At least it seems that way to me. I mean, it just seems like at breakneck speeds, things are coming down the road. Things are just trucking on. Things are just, the days are just ticking off the calendar. But during this time, life brings changes. And we've said this before during this series, is how many of you have faced changes in the last year and a half? We've all faced changes. Life just simply brings changes. And some changes, of course, are welcoming changes, but many times change is difficult, and change doesn't always make sense. And change isn't something that we generally want when it's out of our control. But change happens anyways. Change happens whether we want it to or not. And some changes are just circumstances of life. Some changes are man-made, and some are God-ordained. But sometimes it's hard to know the difference. It's hard to know, is this because of what I've done? Is this because of what they've done? Is this something, God, you're orchestrating in my life? You know, the word says that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them that are called according to his purpose. It doesn't mean that everything happens to you is what God wants to happen to you, but he can use it. Maybe you guys know my story. You know what happened to me in 2009 and how I'd had an issue with pornography in my life. That wasn't what God wanted in my life. But because I yielded to God in his discipline, and I'm not saying that to pump myself up, but my family and I yielded to that discipline that God brought into our lives, or really into my life, it has made us a tighter, closer, more thankful family than we ever have been before. Then I've told you this before, that if they went to Joseph and they said, Joseph, what is the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life? He'd say, it's when my brothers sold me into slavery. And they said, well, what's the best thing? He said, I would have to say, it's when my brothers sold me into slavery. Why? Because that was when he saved his entire family. Now, he went through hardship. He went through trouble, and obviously it was no fault of his own. My case was different. But you know what? I would never trade it because of what God did. I wish I would have gone the right way to have it done the right way. But what God used in my life, the mess that I was, and God used it to turn my life around, to turn my family around, to bring us closer than we ever had been before. That's priceless. That's priceless. You see, life will bring change, but when life brings change, when life brings circumstances, when troubles come and we're not exactly sure where it's coming from, the one thing that you can count on, the one that can truly bring you comfort when the seasons of life change, is Jesus. I want you to look at this verse, John chapter 20, verse 16. And don't worry, I'm going to unpack it for you because I know it won't make sense at this moment. But it's talking about Mary, and it says that Jesus said to her, Mary. And she turned and said to him, Rabboni, which is to say, teacher. Now you might be wondering, how in the world is that verse supposed to bring comfort? How is that verse going to bring me comfort? Well, you have to look at the context. What is happening in the context of this scripture? What is going on? Well, Mary had come to the tomb of Jesus because she was going to anoint his body. And when she gets to the tomb, she finds that the stone had been rolled away. And when she runs back and she calls the disciples and she says, the stone's been rolled away, they've taken his body. So they run, Peter and John run to see. As they get in there, they see these men. Or they see that the tomb is empty. So they take off and they go back to where they were. But here's what I want you to look at. Verse 11. I don't have it on the screen, but if you want to pull it up, you can. John chapter 20, verse 11 says, but Mary stood outside the tomb weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the tomb. And she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. Then they said to her, woman, why are you weeping? And she said to them, because they've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they've laid him. Verse 14, now when she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, woman, why are you weeping? Who are you seeking? And she, supposing him to be the gardener, said to him, sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Verse 16, Jesus said to her, Mary. Now here's how I picture this going down. Mary comes to the tomb of Jesus, realizes that his body is gone. She looks in there. They said, whom do you seek? And she just wants to know where he's at. She loves him. I mean, you think her world has just crumbled. We've all lost loved ones. We've all been at a place, at a broken road where we didn't know how to go on. We didn't know what else to do. And we were just doing the best that we knew how to make it through. And Mary's in this place, and she gets there, and the body of her Lord is gone. And I can almost see her crumbling to a heap, saying, if you'll just tell me where you've laid him. I just need to know where his body is, because I've got something I've got to do, and I've got something I got to do. If you'll just tell me, I'm not going to bother you anymore. I'll take care of him. I'm going to do everything that I need to do if you'll just tell me. Mary. She knew immediately that that was the Lord. She thought he was the gardener. Have you ever been in the presence of God, but you didn't know? Have you ever been in a situation where you wish God was there, but he was the whole time, you just didn't know? The men on the road to Emmaus, they're walking with Jesus. They're talking with Jesus. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? What do you do? And they're thinking, are you crazy? Where have you been? You don't know what's going on in Jerusalem. Where are you been living under a rock? What's going on with you? Of course, they finally get to the house. They sit down and eat, and Jesus immediately, he's gone. But the Bible says that they knew immediately when he vanished, it was the Lord. But it wasn't until he vanished. They were in his presence the whole time. Have you ever been in such a situation in your life, such a season of life, such a season of change that you were so distraught, that you were so disrupted, that you were so bruised and crushed and hurt, that even though the Lord was in your presence, you didn't know? Helen Keller said this. She said, walking in the dark with a true friend is better than walking in the light alone. You see, there is a comfort that only a true, faithful friend can be. And Jesus, he's always that friend. He's always a faithful, comforting friend. You see, whether you're in a season of change or not, can I suggest to you that you draw closer to Jesus? James chapter 4, verse 8 says, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Guys, it's imperative. It's so important for us that whether we're in a season of change or not, that we draw close to Jesus. Because as I've told you before, and I hope this isn't coming across negative. I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just trying to be real with you tonight that life is really three functions. Either you're in the midst of a storm, you're heading into the storm, or you're just coming out of a storm. Life is full of changes and life is full of storms. Jesus said, in this life you will have trouble, but he also said, be of good cheer. Why? Because I've overcome the world. Imagine that, your best, closest friend being Jesus, a comforter saying, be of good cheer. That's what he does. He brings comfort. He brings peace. Why? Because he's a comforting friend. But the second thing about Jesus is not only is he a comforting friend, he's a constant friend. Jesus is true to us at all times, but most especially in our hour of need. Jesus is always true. He's always constant. He's always there. We may not feel it. We may not know it all the time. We may not sense him all the time, but he is always there. Psalm 46 verse 1 says, God is our refuge and strength. He's a very present help in trouble. What does that mean? He's there. He's there. When you need him, he's there. When you don't need him, he's there. You say, I always need him. I know, but sometimes we don't act like it. When everything's going good and those seasons of change haven't wrecked upon us, sometimes we don't need Jesus. We always need Jesus, and he's always there. But whether it's trouble within or trouble without, he's always with you. He said in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6, be strong and courageous. Don't be terrified or afraid of them. For the Lord your God is the one who will go with you. He will not leave you. He will not abandon you. What's going on in this text? Moses is assuring Israel of their constant presence of God with them. The problem with seasons, the problem with change is a lot of times seasons of change can bring feelings of great isolation. And the reason that I say feelings is because you're never alone. You may feel alone. It may feel like you're alone. It may feel like nobody understands you. It may feel like nobody knows, but can I tell you, there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. You might be in a season right now or in a situation that not only do your friends not want to be around you, but you don't even want to be around you. Come on, anybody ever been there? Am I the only one that's been in that place? Am I the only one that's ever been in a place where not only did my friends not want to be around me, I didn't want to be around me anymore? You ever find yourself in that place? But you see, it's in those times that the friend who sticks closer than a brother, he'll pull up a seat next to you, he'll put an arm around you, and he'll talk with you. He's there, and he's always there, and he'll always be there. He said, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. He said, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. He said, I'm going with you to the very end. To the very end. He's a friend that is constant. You see, the deeper we sink into pain, anguish, suffering, and sin, the deeper Christ draws us into his own heart, not away from it. No matter what keeps you isolated today, whether lies and mistreatment of others, physical pain, chronic illness, or the weight of too many wrong and sinful choices, come to Jesus, the friend who loves at all times. As you meditate on his journey to the cross, every step of the way, touching, healing, forgiving those who came to him, rejoice, for he came for you too. He came for you too. So many times, the very thing that we think would drive Jesus away from us is what draws him to us. Romans chapter 5 talks about what one man's sin got us into. The sin of the entire world is what brought the one man. Jesus said, I didn't come to save the whole, but the sick. But so many times the enemy lies to us and says, oh, you're in this mess, and you're in this state, and you're in this condition, and you seem to have no faith, and you seem to not be trusting God. Why would he want anything to do with you? Well, my Bible says that that's the exact time that he wants something to do with you, because he wants to touch your life. He wants to help you. The Bible says that he loves you, and he loves you with an everlasting love. I'm not saying everything's going to be perfect. I'm not saying everything's going to turn out roses and everything's going to be wonderful and great. But I'm telling you, not only is he a comforting friend, he's a constant friend. In seasons of change, Jesus is a constant friend. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15, we know it well. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. You see, Jesus knows loneliness. Jesus knows separation. He knows how you feel, and he knows how isolation feels. And even though he did not sin, he knows what it feels like because he bore the weight of the world's sin upon his shoulders at Calvary. He knows. Just that moment when you think Jesus can't possibly know what you're going through, I can almost hear the voice from heaven saying, I know, and I'm with you. For I said, I will always be with you. Church, he knows you, and he knows exactly how you feel, and he wants to be with you anyways. In fact, even more. Remember I said that about how the world's sin is what brought Jesus. It wasn't our purity. It wasn't our perfect uprightness. We don't get clean to take a bath. Jesus saw us in the condition that we were in, and it drove him to come and to deliver us. Romans chapter 5, verse 20 says, moreover, the law entered that the offense might abound. But where sin abounded, grace did much more abound. So the fact of that the law entering in showed me where my sin was and how deprived and how depleted I was, because Jesus is a friend of sinners. He came to save me and to rescue me from that penalty, to rescue me from that place. That where the law was trying to crush me, his grace was raising me up. Not because of what I am, not because of who I am. I was unjust, and I was a sinner. You were a sinner. But it's because of what Jesus did on the cross. He did it because he loves us. He did it because he loves you. Jesus didn't come because you were perfect, but imperfect. Jesus didn't come because you had it all together, but because you were falling apart. We can't ever begin to think that God doesn't want to be around me because of my mess. Now, does that mean that he wants to leave us in our mess? Absolutely not. Pastor Mark talked about it the other day. When you come into his house, it's his rules. He wants you to follow what he has for you. Not because he's a dictator, but because he knows what's right for you. He knows what's good for you. He knows what you need. He wants to lead you. He wants to guide you. He wants to direct you. Why? Because he loves you. You see, the thing I love about Jesus being a constant friend is the fact is that Jesus is a friend that accepts me even when I can't accept myself. Even when I cannot accept myself, Jesus accepts me. Does that mean he wants me to continue in my sin? Of course not. That's what Paul talks about in Romans 5, right? Should sin abound, and sin abound and grace much more abound? Should we continue in sin? He said, God forbid. That's not what he's saying. But he's saying because of the mess that we were in and the struggle that we've been in and the situations that we go through, Jesus can help us through those things. For he's a friend that accepts me when I can't accept myself. Have you ever allowed the seasons of change to push you to a place where nobody wanted to hear the things that were coming out of your mouth? And neither did you. What do I mean by that? Well, you're frustrated with what's going on, and you're allowing those fears and those frustrations to get the better of you. And you begin to speak from the abundance of your heart. And everything within you is telling you to shut up, but you don't listen. Do you know what I'm talking about? You ever been there where you've been in such a situation, such a difficult circumstance, such a troubling time that you just start spouting off at the mouth and you think, why am I talking like this? Why am I saying that? I need to shut up because I'm embarrassing myself and I'm frustrating everybody that's around me. But the more you try to stop that flow, the more it keeps Come on, now some of you are looking at me like maybe I do need to be delivered. I don't know, but I've struggled in that in my life. I'm not talking about cussing. I'm not talking about being filthy and ungodly and all of those things. I'm just talking about letting the frustrations of life just cause you to just not want to be lived with. Now, maybe I'm painting myself too bad of a picture, but a couple weeks ago when we had our AC go out, and it was, here's the deal. Our AC's going bad. It's been going bad for several years. I know, first world problems, right? But it's been going bad for several years, so we would always get it recharged, and it would limp us through the summer. And we saved up enough money to get this thing fixed. And so I look at the weather report. I know, bad idea. But I look at the weather report, and they're like, oh, it's only going to be in the 70s for like 7 days. That's really how they talked. And I said, this is great. We can take this thing out. I can last in the 70s. No big deal. No sooner we got that AC cut out of the house. Oh, man, look, here comes the 90s. It's going to be 90s for 6 days. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? But I thought, okay, we can get this AC in about a day and a half. We'll be good, no problem. Like a week and a half. You're trying to, how hard it is to stay cool? Not just physically, but mentally. When it's 90 degrees in your house, it's not fun. Now, some of you are probably in here going, dude, I'm still living in that. What are you talking about? I know I'm weak. The flesh is weak. But what I'm saying is then you start acting in ways that you're not proud of, you're not happy with. And people are like, look, I'm just going to let you be by yourself. And you're thinking to yourself, I don't blame you because I don't want to be around me either. Yet even in those moments, Jesus is still there. Jesus is still there. See, Jesus said this in Matthew 15:11. He said, it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles the man, but it's what comes out of the mouth that this defiles the man. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You see, sometimes the seasons of life, these changes will tempt you to draw, and can I term it this way, inspiration from the old man. Sometimes changes in life, struggles and trials will tempt you to revert to what you used to be. And I'm not talking about sin, but I'm talking about being carnally minded and saying things that a man of faith wouldn't say. Seasons of change have a way of exposing your heart, sometimes in ways that can devastate earthly friendships, but that's why I need my friend Jesus at all times. Because even in those times that I'm unlovely, Jesus loves me. Even in those times when people don't want to be around me, Jesus will come beside me. And Jesus will help me. But here's the thing about that. Number 3, Jesus isn't just a comforting friend. He's not just a constant friend, but he's a conscientious friend. In other words, he's always going to tell me the truth. He's going to be honest. He's going to tell me not so much what I want to hear, but what I need to hear. You see, so it's true that he'll be there when you need him, but sometimes what we think we need and what he gives us are two different things. There are times when we think we need encouragement, but what we need is correction, and Jesus isn't afraid to bring correction. Sometimes earthly friends, good earthly friends, can be afraid to speak truth. Why? Because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to cause you more pain. They're afraid to push you away. Sometimes they take up an offense for what you're going through. And so they want to try to be an encouragement to you. They want to try to be a help to you. But Jesus always knows what you need. No matter where you're at, no matter how you feel, and no matter what you're going through, Jesus knows when you need correction, and he knows when you need compassion. He knows the difference, and he's not afraid to give it. Proverbs chapter 27, verses 5 and 6 says, open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed, and faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. The thing that I love about the relationship that I have with Christ is that he's not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. He's not afraid to tell me when I need to do right. He's not afraid to tell me when I need to apologize. Sometimes he tells me in my spirit as I'm reading, as I'm praying, and sometimes he uses other people in my life. But one way or another, God will let me know when I need to know. God will speak those things to me. Why? Because he's not afraid to tell me the truth. And I'm not just talking negative. He can tell me the truth about how much he cares about me. He can tell me the truth about how much he loves about me. He can even speak things into my life or speak things to me that I don't see about myself, but he sees. We've all heard the story of Gideon. You know, he's calling him a mighty man of valor, and he's hiding. He's thinking, are you crazy? You know, I've had people try to speak good things into my life, but because of the situations that I've grown up in, it was difficult for me to accept that. But you know, there's something about when Jesus says it. There's something about in that time of prayer, in that time of need, in that time of soul searching, when Jesus speaks that to my heart. There's just something about holding on to that. I'm talking about a friend that sticks closer than a brother. If you guys can come to the music, I'm getting ready to close. You see, many earthly friends have the will to help us, but they lack the ability. But in him, the power and the will, they're united. Jesus doesn't just have the will to do it. He's got the power to do it. And Jesus doesn't just have the power to do it. He's got the will to do it. You ever felt like, I know Jesus can, but I just don't think he will? Sometimes that can be true because Jesus knows what we need. But not only does he have the power, he's got the will. He wants to help you. He wants to comfort you. He wants to be there constantly with you. He promised that he would be. And he's not afraid to be truthful with you. Jesus is our truest advisor who would rather hurt our self-conceit than suffer our self-conceit to injure us. Let me say that again. Jesus is our truest advisor who would rather hurt our self-conceit than suffer our self-conceit to injure us. Jesus never fails. Jesus never disappoints. And Jesus never deceives. Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. The question I have is, I guess I'll just say it for me. How much time have I been spending with my friend, Jesus? I don't say that in accusation. I say that just, that's something you got to answer. How much time have I spent with my friend? If you want to stand with me, I hesitate to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I feel like the Lord wants me to. Maybe you ever heard that song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus? Come on, some of my older saints, you know that song. And I just couldn't get this song out of my head. And the song says this, it says, what a friend we have in Jesus. I know I can't sing. All our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit, and oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Thanks for putting up with that. Oh, what needless pain. Guys, he's your friend. And I don't know that this came across the way that I felt it. But man, as I was preparing for this, as I was studying for this, man, I just was so excited. Lord, you're my friend. And I can go through anything. Why? Because you're there. You're my friend. You'll comfort me. You're there with me. And you're honest with me. You won't just tell me what I want to hear. You'll tell me what I need to hear because you love me. Guys, during seasons of change, you need to gravitate towards that best friend. And his name is Jesus. Through all of life's changes, he truly is a friend that sticks closer